Packages, the packages that we have in the monorepo. So we have the Frontity package, which contains the CLI and kind of an interface for the APIs, right? We have like the re-exports of emotion, React Helmet, connect, and so on. So not super difficult, right?
That is the Frontity package.
The Frontity package. So it's the CLI, and then the package that you're gonna do import XXX from Frontity. And in order to make this as simple as possible and not having people remind like, oh, this is Frontity with add and some here and so on, we are exporting everything under Frontity. Okay. That's the Frontity package. And that's it. Then we have the core. So the core is something that we use to make, it's pretty much like the Webpack and Babel and so on. It's the thing that is the framework itself. It's not the CLI, it's the framework. But yeah, the users should never interact directly with core. This is only so we could have added all this code inside of the Frontity package, but we didn't because we wanted to be for people doing npx Frontity, we wanted that to be as fast as possible. So instead of downloading all the things, we did it in 2 packages. Pretty much that's it. Yeah, users don't have to do anything with core, but having it installed in their Frontity only in the project package, in the root package. So that's Frontity, that's core. File settings is a package that manages the settings in a project, the Frontity settings file. So the way we want Frontity to work in the future is with different origins of settings. So this is like having a Frontity settings JS file is only one of the options. Right now is the only option.
That's file settings.
Yes. But in the future, so the core is decoupled from where it gets the settings. And there are many things like this in Frontity that right now everything is kind of prepared or going towards, I'm going to the room, going towards a direction, but there's only one thing to do it right now. It's kind of prepared to do it in a different way in the future. So for example, another way that we wanted to be able to explore in the future is storing the settings inside WordPress in the MySQL database with a plugin.
Okay, so the role of this package is to read the Frontity settings.
Yes, and the core imports one package. Right now, it only imports file settings, and that part is not coded yet, so you cannot add, you cannot create another settings package. But pretty much all the things, and so core is already decoupled from this. We have to make a way. Probably we want to create another file called frontityconfig.js. And frontityconfig.js is for this type of things. So in that frontityconfig.js, in the future, probably you could add a package. You could say, okay, my settings, don't get my settings from a file, get my settings from, instead of the package file settings, get my settings using WordPress settings. Or I don't know, any other place that you deem interesting. And for that reason, it's very important that Frontity settings, even though this is a JavaScript file, it always remains serializable. Serializable means that you can send this file, is going to be data file. You can save this file. It's a JSON. You can save this file in a database, and you can send these settings on a request, an HTTP request. If we include here, I don't know, functions, for example, processors, and then this is a function that does some processing, okay? Then we cannot save this in a MySQL database and send it with an HTTP request anymore. So for that reason, Frontity settings, even though it's a JavaScript file, is going to be always serializable because we want people to be able to store their settings in different places than in this file, which is the only option right now. So this is file settings.
So why do you export it why do you use a JavaScript file if you want it to be used as a JSON file? Why don't you use Frontity settings.json, for example?
To allow for, I think that it's more versatile. This, for example, you can add environment variables here.
Okay.
And I think that's fine, because as soon as the final result is this is serializable, I'm fine. And I think with a JavaScript file, you have more options. For example, if you have, I don't know, 30 sites, you don't want to copy and paste in a JSON file all the options. You can have here a default options, and then you can map and modify only some of the things. Anyway, it's more versatile. I've always preferred the JavaScript files than the JSON files for configuration.
Okay.
This is file settings, so it's already there. Not very useful for the final user right now as well. More internal packages, we have error, which this is not very useful for the final user as well. It's more this is more useful for package creators. So it's an error. It's a warn and error function that simply adds a message, and they are.
So it's a helper for managing errors.
Yeah, it's a helper for managing errors and including this. Visit the community for help. That's it. So if we want to change this in the future, we can simply like that.
And I assume
also,
that
it removes the warning so the warnings are removed if they only appear in development, not in production, and so on. And this message only appears in development, not in production. In production, it only appears the final message, and so on. So yeah, anyway, very small package for that.
Okay. So I assume that a lot of packages uses this one, and that this is kind of the recommended way of managing errors if you want to create your custom package.
Yes, for example, I know the use field has something. Where's the use field? Okay, here is okay. Sorry. Yeah, you import. Well, this is because um, we are inside the Frontity package, but you usually will get the warn or the error from Frontity, and then yeah, your React component or something like that, you can warn, hey, you should pass the slot name field here. There are a couple of warnings. Hey, we could not found this field in the libraries and so on. Okay. So yeah, um, it's kind of it's the way you should be warning your users using that package.
Okay, but the package is actually Frontity error, right?
It's Frontity error, but then we are re-exporting that
Okay, okay.
somewhere here.
Okay, because of what you say that you are centralizing here a lot of
Yes.
packages. Okay.
So people don't have to learn that
Mm-hmm.
error is from here, connect is from there, and so on. They only use Frontity, and that's
Mm-hmm.
simpler. One less thing to learn. Create Frontity is actually a package, a very stupid package, mph create package. So mph created some special packages called create packages or something like that. That I don't remember right now, but what to search for create. So npm init. Okay, so npm init. I don't know if you've ever used npm init to create a packagization. Well, now you can create npm init with a package that starts with create and a dash, and you don't have to add the create, only the thing that's after. So you do npm init and the create slash something, npm init something, and then it's gonna run this package for you. So I did this small package, so you can go, I don't even know if it works. You can do npm init frontity test, and it should work, I think. So this was mostly to save the namespace, to save our name in. I created like when I learned that, oh yeah, it works. So instead of doing npx frontity create test, you can do npm init frontity test, and then this frontity is the package create dash frontity. So I created this so nobody else would take this name, because anyone could have registered create dash frontity, and it's kind of stolen from us. So yeah, that's what it does, nothing else.
But npm init frontity test init isn't it for creating a package JSON only?
Yeah, it is. So it still has that, but if you add here a name after init, then it calls
Okay.
a create package. It's
But
weird. It's super weird.
okay. So that actually executes like some code and creates a boilerplate and a lot of things,
Well,
much more than.
wherever this package does,
Yeah.
and what I did
Okay.
for this is to actually do an npx frontity create, basically. Okay. Stupid, but it works. What else? We have types. Types is the package where we have all our types for TypeScript. And this is, so we have kind of a standard in Frontity, which is that all the packages export their types in /types. Gracias. slash types. So you go to Frontity, you have here the index with all the re-exports, but if you go to types, it's gonna re-export the types here, the Frontity types. So whenever you wanna use TypeScript in Frontity, for example, here, the main types of Frontity are in Frontity types, Frontity slash types. But in our packages, they're in the types package. Okay. So these are our types, but in reality, they end up here in Frontity slash types. And that's also a standard in Frontity. All the packages export their types in slash types. More, that's types. And connect. Connect is the state manager, which right now has all the code because it's a fork, but we're gonna merge with React Easy State, so it's gonna be a thin wrapper around React Easy State. And yeah, and most of the things you can use Frontity Connect in your own project if you want, using at frontity.connect. But if you use and it works, and we use it in other places, like for example our PHP plugin for the interface, for the React interface. But yeah, but when in Frontity also it gets re-exported. So you re-export this, and actually, yeah, I don't know what, but we re-export this as well. Yeah, we re-export it. So that's the state manager.
Only the ones that are being re-exported in the Frontity package are the ones that are public, the ones that are actually useful for the final user.
Yes. And the ones we really care not to change without, yeah. The APIs that are not documented, we don't have to do breaking changes to change them. Okay, so Babel, this is a Babel plugin that does some stuff. I don't remember what. Yeah, I have to fix something with the order of these emotion exports. I don't quite remember, to be honest. It was something that it wasn't working with emotion. I think the source maps of emotion were not working. And yeah, I had to create this package to fix it. And I think they're gonna fix that in emotion 11, but it's not out yet. So I may deprecate this one anyway. This is also internal. So the core, we have here the Babel configuration. So this package is here, Frontity Babel plugin, and yeah, so we can, if emotion 11 is out and we don't need this anymore, we can just remove it. It's not like public or documented anywhere, and it doesn't make sense to be used outside of Frontity, of course. So not very useful for the final users as well. Then I think I'm done with this type of packages. Then I guess the next type of package would
then
be
the yoast package. It should be removed.
Yeah, we didn't remove it to have this deprecation here, notice, but I think we may use this again if the implementation is different from Yoast. Now they have support for the REST API. Maybe people want to use the REST API directly instead of using the head tags plugin, which works great, but it's super hacky. And kind of slow as well. It's really well catched with transition with transients, but so yeah, I don't know. Maybe we bring it back. It's only for Yoast. Where else? Yeah, I guess then we have components and hooks. So I don't know if you read this guide here. No, development, coding guidelines, where to place React components and hooks. And the thing is that in Frontity, we have some components that are required by the framework. So for example, head and global and connect and so on. Those are required by the framework. Like if you want to add something to the head, you have to use our component. You cannot use your own, okay? You cannot use your own style. You have to use our own. But then we have other components that are nice to use. For example, the image, the iframe, the switch. I don't know, maybe we can, we were talking about doing a link for the themes, but those are optional. If you want to use your own image component, that's fine. If you want to create your own switch or link or whatever, it's fine. So yeah, for those optional components that don't belong, there are kind of helpers or yeah, something like that, that are not tied to the framework itself. We were using these components and hooks, okay, to also try to not clutter Frontity with things that are not meant to be part of the framework. So in hooks, we had using view. We're going to have the infinite scroll hooks as well. In components, we have the script, the switch, the image, the iframe. We may have link. We may have others that I think, yeah, components that are relevant to Frontity, but not required.
And the other ones, the global and the head, where are they defined?
Those are here.
Okay.
In the Frontity package. So for example, we had a nice discussion about slot and fields. So use fields. So use fields is use field. So use fields, which is a hook, be in Frontity hooks or in the in the main Frontity package. And we decided the main Frontity package because use fields like slot and field, it's something that is part of the core of the Frontity core. Okay, so use connect, use fields, slot, head, and so on. All those global, styled, all those tools belong to Frontity as a core. You cannot use your own use fields. So there are some packages, slot and fields, React. Yeah. For example, you may want to use this library, which also implements slots and fields, which is like a famous React library, but it's not the way to do this in Frontity because all the packages need to use the same thing. So the thing they have to use is in the main. So for nice to use things, nice to have things, we have the components package and the hooks package. More. We have the HTML to React package, which is a package that this is kind of in the edge. we didn't know at the beginning if this should be part of the main Frontity package of the core or an external package. We were not sure at that time if there were going to be more implementations of HTML to React, maybe Gutenberg to React or something like that. So, well, it's right now it's a package. And I guess you're already familiar with HTML to React, right?
More or less.
So yeah, it's the package that you can use in your theme. She's not there. To render the HTML of the post, and then any other package in Frontity can add processors. So you in your theme or any other package can add processors and do things with the HTML. This is one of the extensibility patterns that we have in Frontity, HTML to React. Because, for example, a package like the contact form 7, all it does is it exports a processor that takes a look into the HTML and check if there is a form made with contact form 7, and if it is, it changes some parts of the form with React components to take control of that. And when people click on send, it does a request to the REST API endpoint of the contact form 7 and so on. So the important thing here is that no matter what you do in your theme, you don't have to add support in your theme for contact form 7. You just have to install the contact form 7 package in your Frontity project, and it works across all themes. That's a very important difference between Frontity and Gatsby or Next. Because in Next, obviously, but also in Gatsby, if you want to have support for contact form 7, you have to add support for contact form 7 in your theme and your code. And that's really bad when you wanna support hundreds or thousands of things, because not all the themes in Gatsby are gonna support, I don't know, the 100, the 100 or 1,000 most famous plugins in WordPress, but in Frontity, you can. Like, you can choose a theme and only like the 3 plugins that you use and make everything work without your theme having to implement that code for 100 or 1,000 plugins.
Okay, so these processors, what they do is they parse the HTML received, and according to a specific structures or classes or whatever, they can detect specific plugins and do and add some logic specific for that.
Yes. Yes, for example, this one detects iframes, and yeah, if they are inside a non-script tag, it does nothing. It just returns the same node that it receives. If they are lazy load in WordPress, they change that back, and then after that, it turns the iframe into a component, React component, which has the logic of doing lazy load, either native. This one has native lazy loading and also lazy loading using the intersection observer. So it's using the using view hook. That's it, yeah. And they also have priorities. So for example, this priority is low. So if people add another processors for iframes before this one, then they run first.
So remember the other day, Luis, we were talking about, you suggested that I should convert my plugin in the WordPress repository into a package for Frontity. I would use that, the HTML to React to do that, right?
Oops. Yes. So so I guess this is this is a plugin made by Michael, which adds some questions to the post content. So it's correct me if I'm wrong. It's a new custom post type.
It is, yes.
And then with a source code, you print that in a page, in the post content of a page. So yeah, with a processor, I guess there is some way to detect your HTML. It will have an ID or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can search for that ID and then turn that into React components, for example, the same way we are doing it here, and maybe add animations or add wherever the styling and or the different options. It has some options here, right? About the width, the speed of the animation,
but those
the
options
colors
are stored
in
the MySQL database. They're not available in the REST API, are they?
No, they're not. Unless you expose them, they're not.
Okay,
so you can
in
either
the future version I could expose those.
So you can expose this. So your package can, if you expose those, a package could do could add their own before SSR. So they always have that.
Yeah, that'd be an
or you could
interesting project,
replicate
I think,
this
to do
in the state. So when you add the package here, name FUK concertina, you can say state here speed 90, for example, or 3 or 4. I don't know. And add the options here. That's another option.
And I could also make that, pull them out of the database and add them automatically into the state.
So yeah, that's how it should work. And the thing is that we want to make as many packages in the future as we can, or encourage the community to do them like with zero, like with almost no config or no config at all. So you install the package, it's Concertina, right? You install the package and it works.
Okay, well, I'll definitely be picking your brains, I think, on to do that.
Okay. So that's HTML to React. We have this API that you can kind of change. It's not the best API, so there are some posts in the community to improve the API, and instead of this is probably better shown on Frontity. But well, we'll I don't know, in the future we'll try to improve this. So for example, we have some processors that need to check for a class name and then pretty much add
so the
CSS.
Method receives each node of the HTML.
What?
The test method will receive each node.
Yeah, we're parsing the HTML to a kind of a JSON. And yeah, we want to improve this. For example, we want to improve this API. Well, anyway, I'm not going to show you right now, but yeah, most of the time, all you want to do is to say, okay, if it has the class hashbox shadow at the CSS. So we're going to create APIs for that. Like you can do this in 2 lines of code instead of 25. But the good thing is that, yeah, this is the low API. The low API is working and it's working fine. So there are no restrictions of what you can do today with HTML to React. That's HTML to React. So we have components, hooks, HTML to React. When you add some processors, for example, if you add the iframe processor to your project, then it's importing the iframe component. So you can use the iframe component directly, or you can import the processor of the iframe, and then it's going to be used inside the HTML. And I think then all what we have are Frontity packages, like regular packages. So analytics is kind of a special package. Well, okay, we have kind of 2 level of packages. I don't know how to name this, but you already know about namespaces, right? So for each namespace, we have a package with the namespace. So right now we have analytics, and we have source, and we have router. And I think that's it, because we don't have one for theme. So this is probably the part that you want to understand, Juanma, right? So the first thing that we thought, it was we want at Frontity we want to have decoupled namespaces. So imagine I have my theme here, right? And then my theme is querying, like is getting information from, I don't know, this piece of information. This is the post. Well, we have the title here, and we have the content here, for example. Okay, so these pieces of here are actually accessed through the state in state.source, right? So the theme is accessing state source to get this, but it's not accessing state WordPress source. It's accessing state source. That's another important part of Frontity, and another big difference with Next and Gatsby. The theme is decoupled through this namespace thing of which real package is implementing source. Okay, so right now, again, we only have one source package, but in the future we can have more than one, and we want to have more than one. So we have the one that connects with the REST API, GraphQL, but we may have one that connects with WordPress source. And the thing is that, yeah, the theme doesn't care which one you're using. It doesn't know that they exist. So this is a kind of an interface, like contract between themes and other packages and this source, these packages that are implementing source. And the way we are doing this is with TypeScript. These contracts are written in TypeScript. So for that reason, we have this main, like only the namespace package. So if you want to create your own, right now, if you want to create your own source package, you have to, this is like the public contract that you have to respect. Okay. So as soon as long as you have a fetch function that receives a string and so on, and you have like a get and a data, and well, data should be internal, and yeah, and expose the category and tags. So the things that the other packages are going to expect. Okay, as soon as you respect that, everything should work. But there are more than source. We also have router. So for example, you may wanna do a click here. So this post title may be a click. And again, this is gonna go to actions router set. So in the past, we have a very complex router called, we call that the context router, because it was a kind of 3D router in the sense that you could implement context that were columns of URLs. So you had, well, something like this. And this was a screen. So you could land here, for example, and then you could swipe to the left to this element, swipe to the right to this element, or scroll down to get to this element. And we made it like, this was Frontity Pro. We made it in a way that it really worked. It really worked. It was crazy how well it worked, but it also was a really, really complex thing. And then you also were able to have I don't know, solid. Okay, you were able to have multiple context, so you could move also in time. So you can jump from one context to the other, and another and another and so on. And if you went back in time with the you went back with the back button of the browser, everything was kind of respected in place. So I don't know who's still using Godot, I think.
Noticias coches. Yeah, Godot.
Godot, but the blog, right? Godot.
Yeah, blog.godot.com.
Yeah. So this was one context. You could swipe to the left. You could also scroll and you will be kind of moving here around. The REST API is not super fine, I guess. And if you are in a for example in consejos, in the category consejos, and you click, we would create a context that was exactly in the place that you would expect. So for example, if you click the third one, you could swipe to the first one, the second one, and swipe to the fourth one. And actually, if you can see there that some cuidados, I don't know what, they also have infinite scroll, so you can move down to the cuidados, but then we would change the context, because not to repeat this next post. So you could infinite scroll, swipe around, and everything was kind of in place. And each time you click on the back button, all the context was preserved and all the scrolls as well. And you would be jumping in between context and scrolls and so on. So if you're here and you jump back to the context, everything was preserved. It was really crazy what we did. And yeah, we thought that maybe in the future we would release something like that for the router. So we did a tiny router, which is like super, super, super tiny and stupid. But we reserved, we also did this namespace thing here. So maybe in the future we can have a more complex router. I don't know. What else? Comments, for example, another way to extend Frontity is, imagine I'm working on a theme. So I say, okay, if there is a comments package, then I'm gonna here import libraries, comments component, for example. So yeah, this was another way to use namespaces. For example, the theme can check if there is a comments package, and if it's a comments package, maybe with libraries. So if it's a comments package, I'm gonna import here the component for the comments. And the way to make this work is that underneath, it doesn't know which package it's using. So it could be, for example, WordPress comments, which is the native comments of WordPress, or package for the native comments, but it could also be discuss comments. So again, with the comments namespace, the theme doesn't really care if you're using discuss comments or native WordPress comments. Discuss, I don't know if you know, but I guess you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But if
so
you would like to create a discuss comments package, you would need to first create a generic comments package.
yes,
right? Okay.
yes. So each time we are gonna release something, we will create like this. We will decide on the contract.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, the name of the component has to be component or has to be comments. I don't know, maybe comments because we wanna, but yeah, we have to, yeah, we have to agree on that. At first, we're gonna do them, and then I hope one day the community is gonna propose new official namespaces for Frontity, so we can do more things. Same for this. A similar approach to this could be newsletter comments. So for example, if there is a newsletter package, I'm gonna render that. And this is not the only way to work with these packages. For example, I think comments is a great example, because if your theme is lazy, okay, let's say lazy, and don't want to create their own comments React components, it can import the comments package, but this is not going to have the look and feel of your theme. Okay, you can. We were thinking about ways to style this with using the CSS, passing down some CSS to this component. But if you really want to control all the layout and styling and so on, maybe you want to do it with, I don't know, like each comment here with your own styling, and add some more comments here, like, I don't know, you want to do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, you're gonna use state.comments. You're gonna have exposed as well. So at the moment that you install one of these, there's gonna be it's gonna expose the comments in some place. So you will have, you can map this, and it's gonna export some actions as well. So you're gonna do your form here with the name, the description, and the send button. So this one is gonna do actions, comments, submit, and then you're gonna do the name and the message. Okay, and And yeah, and the thing is that you can also go further than using just a generic React component. You can create the components yourself. And yeah, we are also creating that. If you create a comments package, you have to expose an action to submit a comment in case the theme want to do it manually. So, but again, the theme doesn't care if this action comment is submitting the comment to discuss or if it's submitting the comment to WordPress comments, native comments. I don't know if that's possible with Discuss, by the way, but it's a work like that. So we have, this is another, yeah, the ways, the patterns to extend Frontity. And analytics is another example. It's a bit different because here you're going to have either one router or another, either one comments package or another, and so on. But for analytics, we also have this namespace, but it's different in the sense that it's kind of an umbrella for all the analytics packages that you have. So, because analytics packages are not exclusive, you may want to add Google Analytics and, I don't know, Mixpanel, for example. But we still work with namespaces. So, for example, each time if you install an analytics package, so this is like, well, I don't know how to explain this. Analytics. So you install the Frontity Analytics package, but you may also want to install the Mixpanel Analytics package. So what this does is inside it's these analytic packages are importing Frontity Analytics. So it still has this contract, but they're using the namespace in a different way. Yeah, this works more like when you install, yeah, more like this maybe. When you install any of those packages, this one gets installed as well, kind of, okay? So you have this same API. The important thing here is that the theme has the same API. So if it wants to do actions analytics send event or event, I don't know, event did an, or I don't know if this is name, swipe. For example, you want to send an event each time the user has done a swipe to see if, I don't know, if your users are using swipe or not. So this acts as an interface for this, and you're gonna be calling the here the actions analytics event, but this event is gonna be calling actions Google Analytics event and actions Mixpanel Analytics event. So again, the theme doesn't know the analytics that you have installed, if you ever have installed any. But at the end, you're going to send the event to both Mixpanel and Google Analytics. So yeah, that's how analytics works. And if you go to one of the packages, Comscore Analytics, for example, you say that it's importing analytics and then it's re-exporting the routes, the actions, and the state. And if you go, it's kind of re-exporting. And if you go to Google Analytics. Again, it's importing analytics, and it's kind of re-exporting that. And I think that this pattern, we're gonna, this is the first time we use it, but we're gonna use it more often, because it makes sense that we have, like, the main package not only have TypeScript, but also has some logic, because some logic are gonna be always the same. So for example, for the version 2.0 of source, what I'm gonna do is I wanna move a lot of the logic, or all the logic, to the Frontity, to the Frontity source package, to this one, which right now only has, it has a class for server errors, but it only has the TypeScript, and move all the actions there. So I want to move all the libraries and fetch and all the source and so on, and I want to make the WordPress source and the other packages that we want to create, like the WordPress GraphQL source, to only contain handlers. So I want to move kind of all the logic to here, and then make the source package only handlers. But yeah, that's what these packages are about. Right now we have analytics, source, router, and I think that's it. And I think we're gonna have comments soon, because we're gonna create the first comment package.
So at the moment, there's no way to display comments in a.
You can do it yourself.
Frontity.
You can do it like in a Next or Gatsby app. You can query yourself the REST API, return what you need.
Comments are returned in the REST API.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can query for the comments.
That's right. So you have to do a urine.
Yes, you can
fetch.
do it manually. Okay. We have these analytic packages. I think we screwed it up, because this should be analytics. To be honest, this should be analytics, because they kind of belong to the analytics namespace. So Comscore Analytics, Google Tag Manager Analytics, Google Analytics. We also have the theme namespace, but we don't have a theme package, because right now themes don't have any contract. Maybe that change in the future if, for example, we say, okay, it would be really great for themes to always export, for example, the primary color. So other packages, for example, theme colors primary. So imagine that we want all the themes to expose the primary color and, I don't know, secondary color for the rest of the packages. So if I am a comments package, I may wanna use that for my to color my React component, to use that color somehow in the React component. So we may wanna create a theme namespace, kind of an official namespace. And if you create a theme, then you have to export somehow the primary color, and other packages, without knowing which theme you have installed, can access state theme colors primary, for example, and use it for, I don't know, their own interfaces and so on. But we don't have that yet. But that's kind of the mindset, that how it works. And of course, that's these kind of types or contracts of the namespaces are the requirements, the minimum requirements. So you can have the primary color, but you can have a secondary, like third, fourth, wherever colors. The thing is that if it's not in the main namespace, then other packages shouldn't rely on that being there. Because, yeah. What else? Do you have questions?
No. To summarize a little bit the packages, we have on one side the analytics packages that are the packages related to the analytics namespace. And there we have the analytics package that is like
this is not only TypeScript. It also has logic. So it has the logic of when to do the page view. And it has the logic to call the others. So it has, yeah, it has page views. So it has the analytics package has logic apart from types. And I think that makes sense to not have to repeat the logic in, if it's something that all the packages, all these names packages of this namespace should have, then it makes sense to put that logic inside the main package. And right now, analytics package, the analytics package has logic, but router and source doesn't have logic. But I think we're gonna add logic to the source package in the next version.
Okay. So maybe would it make sense to have two sources packages
installed at the same time? No, I don't
maybe
think
a
so.
REST API and a GraphQL.
I don't think so because they're gonna overlap.
Well, if there's a WooCommerce source, you could have two or not.
But I don't think WooCommerce is gonna be a source package.
Okay.
It's gonna be an e-commerce package with a different namespace.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, so we have the analytics package, and from there we have three current packages. We have the Google Analytics, the Google Tag Manager, and the Comscore Analytics.
Yes.
Okay.
And what I want to do with the source package, one of the things I want to do is I want to move, well, I want to move more logic to the source, to the main source package. And then create like smaller, right now WordPress source is like huge, and make WordPress source these packages like small packages, like configuration packages. These are configuration. These are gonna have mostly only handlers. Okay. So yeah, if you install this, you're gonna be installing both of them. But yeah, it's kind of a configuration of the source package. And what I want to do, so these are kind of exclusive. If you use one, you don't want to use the other. But what I want to do is that, for example, if you have the comments package and you install this one and this one, it works, even though this one is going to use the REST API and this one is going to use the GraphQL. So for everything that it's supported out of the box, like categories, posts, pages, and so on, you're going to use the handlers defined here. So so you're going to query the WordPress using GraphQL, but I want to make it so these two can work together.
Yeah, because WP comments, it will have its own contract that it should be the same for any other package that want to use comments.
Yeah, the thing is that this one is going to add the handler for the comments. So if the handler, different handlers with different APIs need to convivir. How you say convivir? Need to live together? Yeah, live together.
Okay, yeah, because the handlers are.
And then if you want to query the if you want to query your comments using GraphQL as well, you can start using the WordPress GraphQL comments package. But you can use like different ones. So you don't have to use all the packages from the REST API and all the packages from the GraphQL. It's going to make sense that if you have the WordPress GraphQL plugin installed, you may want to use all the WordPress GraphQL packages, but it doesn't have to. You maybe want to use this one, or this one doesn't even exist. I don't know. That's another of the goals of the WordPress 2.0.
So can I just ask a non-technical question here?
Sure.
So, you're talking about Frontity 2.0 and, all these changes that you have.
Source 2.0, yeah.
Right. All these changes that you have planned. So I just wondered what your philosophy is for moving forward. Will you always maintain backwards compatibility in the way that WordPress does and end up with this kind of legacy code base that you keep having to maintain?
No, we follow
or will you go the more Angular 1 to 2 philosophy of lots of breaking changes? And
no, I don't think I think neither of those. So in npm it's super clear. Everyone follows semantic versioning. And even the npm tool follows this. So if you're if you have installed WordPress source 1.x, it's gonna always, when you update, it's gonna always go up in the minor and the patch version, but it's not gonna ever jump to the next major version. So it's not gonna jump never to the 2.x version.
Okay, I guess that's what Angular does anyway.
Yes,
but it was more a philosophy thing. People there were so many changes to Angular 2 that people who were used to Angular 1 kind of dropped Angular completely, and that's how React sort of took off.
Yes. So, but React.
So by making this kind of major changes.
So the thing is, we have to make lose
your user base.
Yeah. The philosophy is make the least amount of breaking changes as possible. And so far, I'm super happy with Frontity because the only place where we want to introduce a breaking change is in WordPress source. That's the only place. I also know that the more in the beginning we are, and we are now at the beginning, the less problematic is to do a breaking change because not so many people is using it.
Yeah.
So I think we are at the point that we shouldn't wait for this a lot because people is already using WordPress source. We should introduce as many non-backwards compatible changes, backwards compatible changes as we can. And in that sense, a lot of the things I want to do for WordPress source are backwards compatible. And I think the approach is going to be to include those in WordPress source in the 1.0 version. And mainly the only thing that I want to change, which is a super big change, is going to change everything, but are the handlers. The way handlers are created and the way the configuration for the handlers is created. So in that sense, that's going to be a 2.0 version. So your handlers are not going to work. Your 1.0 version, your source 1.0 version handlers are not going to work in the 2.0 version, 2.x version. And yeah, so as soon as you don't update like manually to the 2.0 version, your project is gonna keep working. And the good thing about semantic versioning is that things doesn't break. If you do an upgrade, and that's something that I think everybody knows in the npm ecosystem, that if you upgrade to a new major version, you have to check the documentation and do the migration changes. So the way projects, the way projects like React advance is that in some version, so if they are in 16, for example, they start adding deprecation warnings to some of the APIs. So if those APIs are going to be removed in the next version or changed in the next version, mostly remove, I guess, then it still works, but you're going to have deprecation warnings, and you have like time to adapt. And we did that for one API already, for the API of the processors. We added deprecation warnings. We did the change with backwards compatibility, but adding deprecation warnings, and I think it went fine. So I think React, Angular, for some reason, throw everything away and started from scratch. In React, they're not following they're still deprecating things, but they're changing as less as possible. And I think that's the way we should go.
Isn't the danger with the semantic versioning thing, though, is you end up with multiple versions that you need to maintain? So if somebody, comes up with a security hole in the code, then you've got to patch it for the 1.x series, patch it for the 2.x series.
I guess if your project is like hugely used and there's still people using your version and so on, yeah, I guess so. Any other thing that you want to add, guys?
No, I think that we have reviewed all the packages. And
there's this other one, type declarations. Well, this is only so TypeScript doesn't complain if you import any of those files. It's quite stupid. Like final users don't need to know this. Is the files that are supported by Webpack.